are connecting again, because it's just wonderful to be with you and, to talk or interact with so many other people. I may just break in for a minute because we have lost electricity connection here, and I might have to switch over to the other phone. But till then, um, maybe while everybody is joining, we can just go in a little chit chat mode. So all people who are around could can we just have a little chat call? I mean, I just wanted to know if how many of you are okay with the idea of green audit, or how many of you are comfortable with green audit or understand green audit, or have got a green auditing done in their universities or educational institutions.
Is this
All
nice
right.
and clear, ma'am?
Yes, I was just hoping that there's someone, but I don't think anybody's replied. So, anyways, let's start without wasting too much of time. Good afternoon again. Formally, I welcome you to this session, and thank you, IoT, for organizing this wonderful FDP. We are today going to talk about green energy and environmental audit, which is a very important, or say mandatory audit that has to be done for getting a NAC accreditation. Recently, we've come up with this idea of green energy and environmental audit, and that is little different because we've never spoken about these things earlier. And it is very strange that, suddenly this has become one of the very important aspects of this entire system of accreditation. Probably because somewhere we have, we've come to this understanding that resources are dwindling and we have to conserve them. And there is no better place to teach, to understand conservation than a educational institution. So probably that's one of the reasons why this energy audit has become one of the mandatory part of NAC accreditation. Next, please. Okay, so here is a little understanding of NAC or environmental audit. First, let me clear the term green audit or environmental audit is almost same thing. There is no difference as far as educational institutions are concerned. Whereas when you talk about environmental audit in case of any other organization or any industrial organization, then it becomes slightly different. But for us, as of here, for us, this green and environmental audit will remain more or less the same. Therefore, we have to understand them as one entity. And the other thing that we need to understand that every
Excuse me, ma'am. Dear participants, a resource person will join us soon. She has some network disturbance. We are very sorry for the inconvenience. Rima ma'am?
Yes, I'm back again, and
Yes, please.
I'm extremely apologetic for this. But you see, everything we can do, but we cannot do anything about technology shootout. So no light, and suddenly the computer counts off. Anyways, coming back to the NAC and green environmental audit. So first thing was very clear that green and environmental audit in our case, in case of educational institutions, is similar. So there is no difference as such when I say green or environmental audit, it is just the same thing. But what it means is that we are going to examine or take accountability of every aspect which refers to or is regarded as a part of environment. So it could be any aspect of environment that you will look into, and that aspect of your university or your institution is going to be uh, accounted for. That how much is there, how much is being used, how is it being used, and what is the percentage of wastage being done, what can be done for that wastage, how can you control that. So all those little things will be looked into and accounted for. For that, we will have two environment of audit. One is an external environment and one is an internal environment. Whereas we all know internal and external, we understand that when we say internal, we mean the people from within the organization are going to do their own audit, and then we invite somebody from outside, and that body comes and looks at or takes an accountability of all that we have done, and then gives us a clearance whether we are actually following what we are saying or there are some loopholes which needs to be plugged in. So this is how it goes. So what I had to explain, I'm giving you 2 minutes to read this. I'm sure you all know about it, that green audit is a requirement, okay, that NAC is specified, and that is according to their advisory, and that is the competence criteria of an inspection body to conduct a green audit. So it has to be done, and it has to be done as per ISO 17020. Okay, so what is important is we have to understand it has to be done according to ISO 17020. And these once done are given, I mean, every environmental audit that we take, whether it's for energy, whether it is for water, whether it is for waste, we get a certification for that. And once we get a certification from that, those are all added up. And if you get an entire auditing done from somebody, then you will get a green audit certification. That certification will be attached to the list of documents that have to be submitted to the NAC authorities. And that is where your green audit clearance will go into. So this is very, and why I have already told you, we need to have a green audit, because as an educational organization or as an educational institution, it is very important that we walk the talk. When we are saying that there is an environmental disturbance, when we say that we need to keep our environment clean and green, then we have to be the first organization that leads the path. And that is also one reason why this becomes very important. Next. So when we talk about, yes, I've told you it's a comprehensive audit. It's a very big assessment. So we identify the areas where environmental impact is happening. What is the level? What is the measurement of that? How much of resource consumption is happening? What can be the strategies by which we can bring down the negative externalities and bring up the positive externalities, and also maximize stability? I mean, how can we maximize? How can we make it more sustainable? How can we make it more easy to work with? And how can we remove the loopholes that we have in our existing system? That is what the green audit intends to do. And what it will do is eventually, not only it is going to, you see, there are sometimes when we walk into a organization, we see it's a very pleasant place. We find things are in order, things are saved properly, things are kept properly. And when you walk into another one where you see everything unkempt, so obviously the difference enhances your brand. So the place which is more process oriented, the place which is going to have better systems working, the place which is going to have less resource consumption and most recycling of resources, that place definitely will hold a better brand reputation. So by a green audit, we actually not only bring our regulations into place, not only do we say where all and how all can we save our resources, but we also enhance our brand reputation. We reduce the running cost of a place, and we make a very good culture of environmental responsibility, because it's everybody's responsibility. Next. So for the green audit, these are the 4 components that we need to look into: energy efficiency, water conservation, waste management, and emission, which will also include, when we come to emission, we will also talk about green buildings. We'll talk about what are the transportations, what are the green areas that you have, or and how much is the green is to blue ratio that you're keeping. So all those things will come into emission measurement, because all of them at the end of it are going to see how your carbon footprint is going to reduce. So we'll go one by one on each one of these, because we understand energy efficiencies to assess the energy, water, waste, and eventually the emission management. Next one, ma'am. So energy audit is one of the most important audits. Now, why we are talking about it? Because energy saving has become very important. We know that I just experienced a power cut, and we could see how bad it can be. We lose out on a lot of things, our work, our systems which are working. Somebody is working on a system, typing. Sometimes we are typing a question paper very urgently. We need to give something, and suddenly the power switches just for a minute, and all our work is gone if we haven't saved it though. So what I'm trying to say, energy becomes very important. Energy saving has become very important. We know that many people today, many organizations are working towards energy saving, energy auditing, and government is pushing for a better option of having BE certifications, of having 5-star energy ratings, asking people to switch over to renewables. Please, pardon?
Ma'am, nothing, you can continue, ma'am.
Okay, so my request is, if any of the participants has a question or any query to ask, please put it on the chat box. So it will be easier, and it will also become more, it will become a more easy to discuss. I mean, it will be more discussion based rather than just one person talking. So when we were talking about this energy audit, so in energy audit, so we are looking into it. So every organization definitely looks for a better way of working where less amount of energy resources are consumed and more output is attained. And that is the reason why we need to have it. But you see, in reality, what happens? This is very good when we speak about it, but what happens in reality? In reality, we move into our classrooms, or we move into our organization. We are sitting in our office. We sit and, we are working so hurriedly. Sometimes we forget to switch off the lights and fans. Sometimes, the computer is left open. Sometimes if we are working in winters and we have a heater on, that heater will just remain closed from, we will not be closed from the main switch. So, very small things happen, and eventually the energy bills continue to increase. So that is why this is one of the first and the very important assessment or audit that needs to be done. All right. So the purpose is, of course, energy saving, and the methods we do is we do data collection, we do inspection, and we do energy modeling. Now, again, like I told you, that there will be 2 inspections. One is definitely going to be the preliminary inspection, which is going to be in-house, which will happen within the educational institution and by the people who have been appointed by the Honorable Vice Chancellor or the principal or whoever is the head of the institution. They will make a core committee, or even, in fact, in certain places, in most of the places now, we have IQAC in place. So IQAC takes in this responsibility in consensus with the principal and others, and forms a committee which is itself, and delegates them the task of going and doing these internal audits for various aspects. Once those audit reports come, we see if there is something lacking or something wrong or something which can be changed. We first do our internal corrections, and then we invite people from outside to do these energy audits. Next one, please. Ma'am, next. So I have already told you that we do 2 audits, the internal and the external. But in any of these audits, there are going to be these 3 basic steps. First is the evaluation, then testing, and then efficiency recommendations. Of course, all of these will have recommendations, but the first one is evaluation. So what are you going to do? when you're evaluating it. See, we have to also understand this, that when we are doing these kind of audits in our own institutions as an internal auditor, we have to be very, very critical of what we are doing, because whatever reports we put in are going to be put up in front of an external auditor, which is going to be the reflection of the kind of work we do in an organization. Therefore, my request is, when we are going into for these kind of audits, please be very, very critical. Look at the things, look at the points, the sites when you're going in for evaluation very, very critically. And if you feel that there is something which can be changed or done, you must not shy away from putting it up as a query or as a question mark or as a doubt, which can be further discussed with the higher authorities before the external auditors come for doing the same. So that saves in a lot of time. And of course, the faster you get your green chits from the external auditors is going to be the time when your NAC accreditation becomes easier. So physical characteristic of a building has to be done. Of course, you take up all the past energy bills. So you look at approximately 12 months of energy bills and see how the energy bills are moving through the seasons. And once you know that they are moving and you see that there is a larger, there is a bigger or a heavier bill which is coming in particular season or during particular times, then you can go in for probing in depth into that as to why this is happening and come up with some solutions for that. Once you have done, then the tests are conducted. Tests could be conducted to see that how much of energy is being utilized, how efficient are your rooms, how thermally efficient are your rooms, that they can hold on to the heat or cooling when it is done appropriately. And once these testings are done, then we might find that there is current leakage, or we might find there are broken sockets, or we might find that there is a leakage happening through the doors, or the ducts are not working, or the ACs are not working properly. There could be so many small reasons. You see, sometimes in a big institution or a very fast moving active place, everything may not be done on time. Sometimes things are postponed, sometimes things are not done and eventually are forgotten, because we are all humans. We may make mistakes at times, and that is the place from where our energy starts to leak or energy starts to bleed, and that is what needs to be controlled or fixed up, and that is where testing is important. And then last would be that after all the auditing is done and we found that there are issues and problems, then we come to a point or consensus where we give our should be done to bring down our energy bills or energy budgets. All right. So next one, please, any questions, you can put it on the chat board. These are the three types of energy audits that I told you. One is walkthrough. So when you are doing the preliminary or when you are doing the assessments, you walk through the entire building, you walk through each and every socket, every point, every place where there is an MCB or whatever larger system. You walk through each one of them and see, you count the number of lights and fans, you check how much of power is being taken in, how many sockets are running free, how many of them are, how many are multiple sockets. So all these small, how many of the electric lines are working 24/7, how many of them are switched off at what time. So all these little details are taken in. Once you are getting that there are certain places which are a little complicated, where there are lots of connections coming and moving in, that becomes a very targeted audit. So you stay on to that point for longer time. You look at the detail, you do a detailed examination of that area, find out what are the issues there, how we can cut down on the budget, what all can be done. So that becomes a very targeted energy audit. And last is the detail. So after you've done that, you can also do another detailed audit where you've taken account of each and everything, where the walkthroughs and target audits are also included. And finally, you make a collective report, which is comprehensive and which takes care of almost all the energy aspects which are there in your institution. And that could also include the renewable energy aspects. So maybe you are having some solar power areas, or maybe you are having solar batteries running somewhere, or certain part of your institution is running only on solar. So all those also need to be taken into account when you are doing your energy audits. Next. Next. So anybody, any questions till then? All right. So what is it? I mean, after doing so much of hard work, what is it that I'm going to get? Well, this is what I get. One, that I become more energy efficient. I get to find places where I can improve. See, I may not be knowing everything, but once the energy audit is done, I suddenly find areas or places where, there is a scope of improvement and there is a scope of change. And those places I can change, bring about a change, and make my energy budget even better. Then identify safety concerns. Sometimes, we do a very quick fix because we are working hurriedly, things are being done, or construction site is there next to the academic block. And we find there are wires running loose, or, maybe the sockets have not been put up properly, or there are open-ended sockets which can be potentially dangerous, or wires hanging outside loose. So there are very small things which are very innocuous otherwise, because we kind of live with them. It's okay. We have kind of adjusted to them since they've been there for so long, but they could be a very big safety hazard in long run. Therefore, those safety concerns are also identified when we are going through this extreme energy audit. Then we, of course, come to know how much of energy we are wasting, which is a very sad thing. But, once you do this kind of audit, it is very strange. Despite all our efforts, majority of people end up finding that there are a lot of places where they could have cut down on their electricity bill, which was not otherwise being addressed. So this energy wastage comes. So whether it is for your house, or it is for your organization, or for anything else, but this can definitely be a very good source of controlling your energy budget, and makes your home or your organization much more comfortable, because now you know which are the energy the points which are you are going to use for your energy requirements, what you are not going to use, where all you can fix up. Sometimes what happens is that by default, when I'm going into a room or when I'm working in my office area, I may not imagine, but a slight change in the way I sit or the way I put up my window shades during the daytime can actually change my energy requirements. And that could be very, very significant when it comes to the energy billing. So those are the things that you can look into very minutely when you are going through these energy audits and eventually benefit from them. So I would request, I requested last time also, and I request this time as well, that please, whenever you are doing these energy audits in your organization, also make it a point to go home and do it. And you will find surprisingly a lot of things that you can change in your household energy budgets. All right. Next. Anybody here has got his or her energy auditing done at home? So now when we look at NAC, we see that the report that will go, it will have the energy consumption trend. So that means it is going to, you have to give a trend how your energy bills move over a period of time. Okay, what are the energy hotspots? I mean, where all are you concentrating? Where all are you using your energy most? And what are the future possibilities? I mean, see now, after 2015, since Paris Agreement, our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, has been pushing for the Solar Alliance. He's been constantly talking about getting renewables. And this is very important because both the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, I would rather say, not Kyoto Protocol, but Paris Agreement, and eventually here after the Kigali Agreement, we have come to a point where we realize that renewables are a very significant source of energy and we cannot overlook them at any point of time. We have to get them into our households, into our educational institutions, into our recreational spaces, because everywhere use of fossil fuels may not be very conducive. So we are all witnessing a lot of change, from wherever you are. I'm sure in all your states, you must have seen a very stark change in the weather patterns happening. And many of us experiencing it, and we can understand these are not normal because they never happened before. So we all know that there are these climatic changes which are happening, and fossil fuels will only add to more miseries to us. So therefore, as an educational institution, it becomes our responsibility to pave a pathway where we say that renewables are the future energy sources. And for that, we need to find spaces where we can convert our existing systems into renewables. And of course, we all know that solar powered places all get benefit from the electricity department. So that can be taken care of. Now, this will be short, medium, and long term. So you will so initially you are going to tell like a brief overview of what your report is like after you've been through the entire place. So you say these are the things that you've seen. Then you develop the same on a larger scale where you talk about where all the bills are, how the things are changing, what all you suspect could be a problem areas and needs to be fixed up or will be fixed up in the coming years or sessions. And in long term, how do you see the energy shifting from what it is existing today to what it should go? So there is a fixed time frame that you will have to give. And that is what your report should contain when it goes to for your NAC assessments. All right, so this is how it is going to look like. And this is the kind of energy audit certificate that you will be given post your audit. Now, one thing also we need to understand, now this energy audit certificate comes from an external auditor. The external auditor or the team of auditors we take for energy audit has to be a BEE certified auditor. You cannot have an energy auditor who is not BEE certified, which is Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So he has to be certified, it should be accredited, and it should have all the, you can see here, besides the Ignite Engineering, the others accreditations you need to have in your certificate to ensure that it is a genuine certificate. All right. Next. The other thing which is equally sensitive to energy is water. Recently, we've also been seeing a lot of water crisis happening across the country. Globally, also, water crisis is one major issue. But water is definitely becoming a very, very scarce resource. And that is why water audits also need to be taken very seriously. I won't be surprised if they will start asking for a very, very detailed and multiple water audits eventually, because water is something that we really cannot stay without. Electricity, we can stay the whole day. We can teach without electricity also, but definitely not without water. So that is where. Now, what does water audit do? From the time that water is entering your premise, through the entire area where it flows, and once it gets discharged from your premise, this entire circuit has to be carefully monitored, and the inflow of water and the outflow of water, including the distribution of water, needs to be assessed, and thereby the water balance needs to be maintained. And in case you find there is a discrepancy in the water balance, then definitely you will have to give suggestions of what you can do to improve upon it. So what are we doing here? The purpose remains identifying water saving opportunities. We also have to see the water quality, because sometimes you see in certain areas, water quality is a problem. And that problem needs to be addressed. And methods, of course, like the last one, data collection has to be done, where storage, usage, wastage, all needs to be done. Site inspections have to be done. And eventually, water modeling, you decide on a long-term strategy as to how you plan to manage your water in long run. All right. So next. Now this is a little longer, but what I need you to understand is we'll go through it very slowly, not very difficult. Not everything needs to be done, but yes, how we go. First thing I said that we have to evaluate our water, so we have to map our water, just like the energy audit. We have to go through the entire building and find out what are the points from where water is entering our place. Where is the water coming from first? Is it coming from the municipality, or do we have our own water resources, or are we using underground water? And if we are using underground water, is it the permissible way that we are using underground water, or it is not being taken through permissible way? So we need to know things with clarity. Once we know it, then we find out where this water is going. And what are the places that these water is going to? Where all are we distributing the water? How many taps? How many faucets? How many toilets? How many pipelines? Are we using other things? So then again, Cooling towers, do we have? There are certain organizations, institutions which might need cooling towers. So do we have cooling towers? No. If we don't, then it is good. But definitely we have RO systems. Do we have distillation plants? Are we using sprinklers? Are there mist chambers? Is there any other water guzzling mechanism that we are using in our organization? That is what we need to look into very critically. Then we check for the pipelines. Are the pipelines rotting? Are the pipelines rusted? Are they broken from somewhere? Is there a leakage anywhere? Are the joints proper? Are the joints leaking? So all those little points need to be critically put onto paper and examined. Because sometimes sometimes your water may be you may be using very efficient methods for water, but your joints are leaking or your faucet is dripping. Or, sometimes we ignore, but every drop that is falling, it will not look very, very big, but that every drop falling can lead to a lot of water loss. So that is why this mapping is very, very significant and important. Next, please. Then, of course, your bills. If you are getting these monthly bills, you have to look at see, there is not much of a difference between how you audit. It is just what you are auditing makes a difference. Otherwise, almost similar things happen. Just like you took electricity bills for a year, you take water bills. You look at the bills and try to see how much water is being utilized at how much of time and what is the amount of water. So looking at your bills, you will get a baseline use of your water, that how much of water at an average the organization is utilizing. Then you look where all this water is being utilized and see which are the areas where maximum water usage is happening, and is the water which is being used judiciously or is it getting wasted. So there are two ways. Either you have somebody that is looking into it, physically collecting that water, checking it using a mathematical formula to find out the amount of water wasted per minute or per hour or whatever. The other way is that you put a submeter. So a submeter gives you a very accurate analysis of how much of water is being utilized, just like a submeter in the electricity will give you exact utilization of that water in that given area. And that will give you a clearer picture of your water. And if you feel that water is being utilized for good, then okay. But if you feel that this can be avoided or it can be only used, as and when required, then of course you can put your comments while you are doing this internal auditing, and this can become a easier way to fix up the problem. Next. Okay. Now, BMP is best management practices. So what do you do? Now, I have got everything. I have seen my entire institute. I've counted everything. I've seen where all the water is going. Now I start looking for what can I do to make it more efficient. So then I decide a time frame. I say, okay, I have to decide a time frame that within this time, I am going to reduce my water bills. Okay. So I'll start doing my data tracking. If I have not been doing this, many a times we don't do it. We are lucky to be in a country which has lots of rivers. So traditionally, water has never been an issue. If we go abroad, we have to buy water. I mean, nobody serves water. But I think traditionally as Indians, we know that serving water is the basic thing that we do. Anybody who comes home, first thing is we give water. And we've always been doing it. So water is never something which crosses a mind twice as to, you have to check water. But now we have come to a point at this time and age where water definitely needs to be relooked. So a regular meter tracking, a regular data collection needs to be done from the areas, maybe for some time. Once we get a hang of it, then we may not, but for some time, so that we put up a practice in place. Then we need to do a leak detection. Where are the leakages happening? Where are the possibilities of leakages? Where are the common places where continuous leakages happen over a period of time? Those are the identified or marked places that we need to have a regular check. Then, of course, reduce, reuse, recycle, and repair. These are 4 very powerful R's. If we continue to do these, then this solves a major problem for us. Sometimes instead of going in for a repair, we wait for a complete damage to happen and then we replace the whole thing. But I think instead of replacing, repairing is a better option. So we can look into these 4. How much can we reuse? Is there a possibility of recycling that water? Is there possibility to reduce the consumption wherever possible? And if there are problems, can we repair them on time so that we can stop the unnecessary use of water? Then of course we can have better equipments, better processes. So if we are using, say, let's take an example of RO. We use RO, and we all know that RO wastes a lot of water. So can we decide on a practice where we are utilizing that RO water to do some other activity in our organization so that the water that is given out of RO as a waste gets reutilized? So, thinking like that. So the team has to be very, very focused. The team has to be very, very proactive in thinking on new solutions or finding new answers to the problems that are existing, and be very critical of what is happening. Because if you are not critical of what is happening in your own organization, then the people who are coming from outside are going to be doubly critical, and that can make your problems even worse, because that will become a hindrance to your NAC accreditation. So my suggestion would be that before the external auditors come for any kind of audit in green auditing, please do your homework with utmost criticality and sincerity, because that gives easier chance of you getting the accreditation. Then of course, communicating these. Now, organization doesn't work with just the audit people or the people sitting on the top in the offices, maybe the principal or the vice chancellor or the admin staff. It is everybody. So we all are stakeholders to our organization. The students are stakeholders to the organization. The support staff is the stakeholder. So everybody needs to be collectively given this responsibility of managing water or energy or waste or whatever comes. So all that audit report that comes, that should be shared, and the best practices which you then form for controlling the water waste situation, those should be shared with other employees, other faculty members, students, support staff, everybody, so that everybody is in sync and everybody utilizes the same systems, and then it becomes the culture which you are going to continue further. Because without educating, without giving this culture into system, things will not work. Even if you do it once or twice, eventually they fall back to their same systems because nobody will be bothered. Next, please. Yes. Now, the third kind is the waste audit. Now, waste has also become a very big problem. We all know how much we've been harping about the plastic waste, which is taken up, how much of other waste which comes out. And there is no place probably in this country, or rather in this world, where you can say that there is no waste. Everywhere where human beings have gone, have happily created waste and proudly say that this is waste. I don't know how it happens, but we all do it together. So we are collectively responsible for that. Therefore, waste audit also becomes important, because we can't teach our children to be cleaner and better if we are not able to control the waste that is being generated within our own institution. So now waste audits are also very structured processes. So it quantifies the amount, the type of waste generated, and how you are disposing it of. And if it is not being disposed of properly, then what could be the possible methods of disposing it of correctly? So then what do we do is, the purpose is basically to identify the origin and type of waste. So we do an entire life cycle analysis of all things that come inside us. So whether it's a computer coming or books coming or food coming, whatever comes to the organization stays there. That we need to identify where it is coming from and where it ends up in our organization. So once we need the origin and the type of waste, then we can decide on collection methods of that waste, how is the disposal being done, and what could be the reduction strategies. See, it may not be always sensible to have, everybody putting in waste. Maybe we can stop it somewhere. Maybe we can put in some practices in place that there is this avoidance of waste. Next, please. So if you have to be waste, you have to be most efficient. So see, what happens is, suppose I'm sitting in the office and I keep typing and I have to write a lot of papers. Sometimes we use a lot of paper. We write it, we type it, we look at it, and then we find it's of no use. Sometimes you have to take out multiple lists. multiple copies of certain things. They have to be distributed to people. One side copies, and the other side of the paper is getting wasted. And once the objective of the work is over, most likely the paper goes into the dustbin. But we could also use that one-sided paper for writing down and doing our personal work, or making slips or receipts or chits or hand notebooks, rough notebooks, or writing rough pages. So, there are so many things we can do, but how many of us would think about it? Therefore, becoming waste-wise only happens when we start auditing our waste and seeing or looking at the loopholes that can be plugged in, reducing waste. So now, when I've started using the one-sided paper for my personal use, I have actually reduced my waste, because all that one-sided paper could have gone to the dustbin, but now it will not go to the dustbin till such time that I'm utilizing it. And it has, of course, become a better use because I'm using that other unused side of the paper, which would have otherwise gone to the waste bin. Okay, so what do we come to know? Once we do this audit, what will you know? You will know the kind of waste that you are making. How much of that waste are you creating? What kind of waste management system are you having in your organization? Do you even have it or not? I mean, where is your waste going? Can you improve upon that system? And that waste baseline data that you will get when you do your audit this time can become a major source of understanding how you can minimize waste for the future. So that way, it becomes very important to audit your waste. Next, please. So I think maybe you can also suggest, in case your organization is not going into waste audits, you could also suggest them this time that waste audit would be a good idea because it gives you a cleaner and a greener campus. Next, ma'am. So these are some common categories of waste, and maybe you can take 1 minute and look at it and see what all are the categories that fall into your educational institution and how much is there. Most likely, it could be some display material once you've had a workshop or something, or it could be packaging material, maybe some paper, plastic. So these could be common ones which are there. And e-waste, of course, because now almost every organization has a lot of electronic equipment. So e-waste becomes a very common waste. Besides that, metal is there, of course, light bulbs, batteries, so many common things, small things, wires. Those are, waste that we generate in our education. If there's anything else, any one of you has some specific kind of waste material that you are, giving out, then you can please write it in your chat box, share with us so that we would know more about it, and maybe we can also, collectively try and find a solution for that. Next one, please. So what is the first thing then you do after all this? You, just like we went around doing a detailed in-depth analysis in the water and energy auditing, we need to start asking the building or departments to bring their trash after labeling them. So every department brings it. So say the Department of Electronics is bringing its waste, the Department of English brings it, the Department of Math brings it. Everybody brings out their waste and labels it. Okay, then you wait. So after labeling and weighing, you know how much of trash you are collecting every week or every month, depending on when you have collected. So this cycle will happen at least 2 times, at least either monthly or weekly, but you have to do it just to get your baseline data and to identify where the waste is coming from, what kind of waste is coming from, and how much of waste is coming from. Okay, now biomedical waste, yes, it happens in cases of, I have not put it deliberately here because biomedical waste is very, very sensitive. And in case you are having it, which mostly happens in case of medical institutions or paramedical institutions, then you have to be very careful because that waste not only goes into the separate bins of biohazard, but also then you will have to take a certification from MPCC. Because MPCC is the only organization which has been certified to destroy medical waste or hazardous waste. Therefore, that is very important. So biomedical waste, unlike other waste, cannot be categorized otherwise. You can keep it separately. You don't need to bring it with your trash. But if you have it, you should know, you can weigh it over there where the bin is kept. And after weighing it, you can, ask your authorities to go to the to go to either Nagar Nigam or to CPCB and inform that you are having biomedical waste and you need to get MPCC van to come to your place and collect it. So only MPCC people are allowed to go collect the waste and bring it and destroy it in their own furnaces. Otherwise, destroying the biomedical waste without a proper procedure may lead to fine. And also, of course, it is it is something not right, because you are going to increase the amount of pollution in howsoever way nobody knows. So it is better to be very careful once it is biomedical waste. All right. But for rest of them, you can do this baseline work. Then you need to segregate the recyclables from non-recyclables. So once you have them, then you can weigh what are the recyclable waste you are producing every month or every week, and what are the the recyclables one, you can of course find a way to put it back into mainstream. Maybe you can give it to the recycler, and I'm sure almost every, if you look at the CPCB or the SPCB site in your state, you will know who are the recyclers authorized by CPCB and SPCB for collection of waste. And maybe you can connect with them, ask them to take away your recycled product in whichever fashion, and that becomes very legalized process of sending away your waste and making the place cleaner. So trash and recyclable, non-recyclable and recyclable are segregated. Then once you have sorted, then your records are made, and from next time onwards, you know that, all right, in my organization, these are the departments which have maximum recyclable waste. These are the departments which are having minimum recyclable waste. These are the departments which have non-recyclable waste, or something like an e-waste, you can say. Again, like the biomedical waste, e-waste is also given to very, very specific recyclers who handle only e-waste recycling. So that too does not go in common waste. So we have to be very categoric when we are selecting or choosing our waste categories. Once we have selected them, then we look into the CPCB site. You will get the names of the recyclers, and you please contact those recyclers to get a very systematic way of disposing of your recycled products. Next, please. And yes, before this, I am sure you read the last line, that you please must use your gloves and your masks while you are doing all these things, because we do not know what kind of trash is going to come out. Anyways, it's always a safer practice. What are we going to do with all this? After we've got and collected everything, now there is this little thing that I have given here. This just tells you how much of weekly waste that you are generating. So you divide your weight. So first you've taken out the combined weight of all the non-recyclable and the recyclable waste. You multiply that result by 100. You divide the weight of your recyclables only by this total of trash and recyclables. All right. So you have all the waste, combined waste, divided by the waste of the recyclable material that you have. And then you multiply it by 100, and that will give you the waste diversion percentage. It means how much of waste you need to remove as recyclable and give it away per week. And after that, when you have done, then you can start to think as to what all waste and where all these waste is coming from. How can you bring it down? What are the things that you can curtail? What are the things that you can recycle or reuse or reduce? So all those points or practices can come after you have done all this exercise. Then you can also see that, can the recyclable waste of one department be used with another? Say there is one department which is taking out too much of paper waste, and there is another department which can utilize that paper waste for doing something. So is there any way? And that also gives you a very good way in which you can do a cross or interdisciplinary activity. So maybe the civil department can utilize some of the waste from other departments and use it for making, maybe you can talk about making some materials or making roads or other structures which they make. Or maybe the material science department can utilize it for creating newer materials, or the fashion department can think about. So I mean, these are just ideas that I'm giving you out, but you are qualified enough to think. Maybe when you sit and brainstorm, many more ideas might get generated, and those could be utilized, and that makes you even better recycling organization. So this is, I'm also, you could find kind of ways that you never thought would be existing in your organization, and how could you get away from them, or how could you remove them, or you know end using those are the kind of strategies you could think when you are auditing your waste internally. Next, ma'am. No, the next one. You've gone in front. We need to go to the 20th slide, I think. No, 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 no. You're going back, ma'am. You have to go ahead. So yes, to the 17th, you have to move. So I would really like to know from the audience if there's something that they have, some queries, something that they would like to share, if they have been doing this in their organizations. It will be interesting. So please send it on to your chat box. Okay. So after you've audited your waste, these are the 8 goals that you can look into. First is you look at your garbage bank. Sometimes the garbage bins can be small. Now your garbage bins are smaller, and maybe the waste that you are getting is too much, or maybe it could be the other way around. So how many times in a day or in a week is your garbage being picked up? So, these are smaller questions. Are we doing recycling? Now that you know what all recycled material you're using, you can go in for your recycling plan. Then you can see what kind of recycling guidance do you need, or guidelines do you need. Okay. You can find out the loopholes. Where are the things? What are the things that I can cut down on? What are the things that I don't need? Like I told you, that 2 departments can work on this, and find out a better option of utilizing waste from one and making wealth out of it. And that even the government has the government of India is pushing for the waste to wealth program in most of the cases. So you can see where all you can utilize the waste occurring from one department, or within that department, can you utilize that waste again? Okay. And is there any way that you can repurpose or repair those items and can utilize them again? That also could be a good thing that you can take over. And then once you've done the audit, please remember, whether it was energy, whether it was water or waste, please don't do it once because you are doing it for NAC accreditation. You can continue to keep these small little internal auditing teams and do it on regular intervals so that you improve the overall conditions of the organization. See, sometimes it is just too good because it makes you a better person. And when we do these kind of introspections within our organizations, that opens up our systems, that makes them much easier, much accessible, and it's a learning exercise. Next, please. Then, of course, these were the 3 major things that you can do. But besides that, there are other environmental aspects also. Something like the buildings. How good are your buildings? How green are your buildings? What is the transportation that are you allowing your students to come by 2-wheelers and 4-wheelers, or do you have buses running for them? Because that cuts down on your emission. Then, how much of green area do you have in your organization? See, sometimes we are not so fortunate to have a large sprawling campus. We may be in the heart of the city, very less space, so very few trees. But are we thinking about newer things to improvise upon our air quality in that case? So those are the things that you need to look into when you are doing the environment. This is the overall. So those 3 are also a part of environmental impact assessment. But then we also need to look into the green, blue, and gray ratio. Green, blue, and gray ratio is how much of greenery is there, how much of water conservation are you doing, and how much is the wastewater getting recycled, how much is the cemented area in your place. Do you have good water recycling systems? Where is that recycled water being used? Do you have a rain harvesting system? If you don't, can you have a rainwater harvesting system? So, these very small things which we may be teaching our students, but may not be practically experiencing it in our systems. So those are the things that we need to bring in. Similarly, noise. How much is the noise? What is the noise level in your organization? What is the radiation level in your organization? So all those little things, if we are going to see how many rooms are sunlit, how many of them don't need electricity during the whole day. Sometimes we are so fascinated by rooms that when we come into the classroom, all the doors and windows are closed, everything is closed, and we have to put on light. Can we have the doors and windows open so that we have more natural light coming in, less of electricity being wasted? So these things can complement each other when you start thinking on a longer run. Next, please. And of course, this green certificate is one we are going to all look forward to when we do all these auditing, because once we have done our internal audit and we have an external auditor coming in doing all this, this is one thing that we will be looking for. Next one, ma'am. Now that we've spoken about all the kinds of audit that we do in detail, it is just to summarize then what we do. Then in the 3 phases that we are going to do audit. First, we do an internal audit, and then we go in for external. So first is the preparation. What is the scope? What are the objective? Of course, we know what the scope and objective is. We prepare our audit teams. Then the audit team will sit and brainstorm and make an audit plan. So you might need the organization, you might need a map for the organization to see what is the area where all you are going to go, what all you are going to see. So that all planning has to be done. You notify the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? I mean, of course, everybody is. So let everybody pitch in, let everybody know that they are also a part of this exercise. So you are the ones who are conducting it, but everybody needs to be into that. And then you take care of the logistics or resources, anything that you require for doing it. So this is the first phase, or the audit preparation. Then you conduct the audit in the second phase. You hold meetings, you collect data, you do inspections, you do. Now, once you're collecting data, it doesn't mean that you just go randomly and collect data. So you tell all the stakeholders that we will be coming for collection of data. So kindly keep your data collected and together collated so that we can work upon it. Once you see all these, you can talk to the people who are working. You talk to the electricians, the waterman, the person who picks up the waste, the support staff, the people who are in charge of getting it done. So you interview everyone, you try and find the reasons, they assess them out. This is what you do, and you document everything that you are doing. Once you have documented everything, then you come together and put up a meeting trying to figure out what is the outcome of that entire exercise of conducting the audit which is happening. And finally, in the phase 3, which is the post-audit activity, you prepare the report after the closed meeting. And after that report is done, you distribute that report to all the stakeholders, including the officials in the admin block. Discuss with them the possible action plan and the corrective actions that you have thought of in your closing meeting. And then after discussion, there definitely will be certain things that will be implemented or that needs to be implemented. Those things will come into your immediate short-term, medium, and long-term goals. As to what are you going to plug in immediately, what will happen in a couple of months, and how do you see these things working about a year after, or 2 years or 3 years after the audit has been done, or what all the changes will come. So this is what you are going to do while you conduct your environmental audits. Next, please. So this is how your audit page is going to look like. It will have these possible parameters. Now, this is for an external auditor. So you can do an internal audit in the same way. So in the name of lead auditor, you can have the internal auditor 1, subject expert 2, and all these. Once you are doing it with an external auditor, also you will have similar kind of auditing page, which will have all these parameters, and you will have a green officer who at the end is going to sign, who's going to be appointed by the university or the organization, and is going to sign against it, because he's going to be, or she's going to be, the one who will be accompanying the audit team from the external audit team and taking them around, explaining everything. And this person, this green officer or green person who's appointed by the organization, is one who is going to be in the audit team, because he or she would know what is where and how it is being talked to, or how it has to be, explained. All right. Next. These are certain certifications. I have just kept it for your understanding. So these are the ones which you can done depending on. See, everybody may not need all certifications, but depending on what kind of organization is yours and what all do you do, will decide on what kind of ISO you will have. There are certain, like you spoke about the biomedical waste. So if there is a biomedical organization, then they will have to take a NABL accreditation, which is quite different, which I have not written here because normally when we talk about institutions, these I overlooked, but I thought the ones who do these kind of medical or paramedical activities, they, I'm sure, know that these NABL and NABH certifications are mandatory for them to run their courses and their organizations. Okay, so but you must understand that NAC advisory is only ISO 17020. All right. It is not ISO 14001. ISO 14001 is for environmental standards, but that is for corporates and companies. Like I told you initially, for us, the green and environmental audit is the same thing. We are not distinguishing it into two parts, but for companies, it becomes very, very different, and they have to have a ISO 14001 certification for getting their audit done. So is it very clear? Means we have to understand this difference here, that when we do it according to our NAC accreditation, for our NAC accreditation, we need to take an ISO 17020 accreditation. Is it fine? I hope everybody's got it. So please let us not get confused between the two. 14001 is for environmental audits, but that is not that we do here for universities. That is for corporates and other companies. For us, for educational institution, it has to be ISO 17020. All right, next, ma'am. Then, of course, this hard work will definitely pay you, because this is what you get. You get a very positive outcome. You get reduced emissions. You get better conservation of your resources. You preserve your ecosystems. You have a good cost saving. You are more energy efficient by the end of it. You have a long term. See, when we do energy budgeting, water budgeting, and waste budgeting, you will find that, if some one of you is there which is closely associated with the admin department, would understand that there becomes a better profitability and financial stability for the organization. So, most of the times what happens whenever we don't like doing much of audits most of the times, because we think, oh, it's going to be too hard, and there will be a lot of issues which will come out, and they will ask us to improvise. It takes a lot of money. But trust me, in longer run, when we do take advantages of these efficient methods, which are suggested by a post-audit, then our financial stability and profitability enhances over a period of time. And this enhancement is long-term. So one needs to understand, we need to be very, very careful when we are thinking on terms of economical benefits, because economical benefits will come. Sometimes you have to give a little bit, you have to shell out a little bit to get a bigger benefit. And that is what audits do for us here. And the social benefits, definitely, you come to a better and a much happier and a very positive place, which is more greener, which has better systems. And then we make a culture in an educational system. And that education culture, which we are going to pass on to the students eventually, is going to make a positive trend in society. See, we hold a very, very significant and a very, very important responsibility as educators, because we are showing the path to the next generation. What we do, how we conduct ourselves, what we are doing, how we are, working in our organization is what the next generation is going to follow. So if we are being more energy conscious, if we are being more environment conscious, if we are being more empathetic to each other, if we have more values, then definitely that get passed on to the next generation. That makes our future more secure and better, and a country rises faster. And lastly, our organization gets a brand image. Oh, that organization, oh, they are very green. They do good, responsible recycling. They don't waste so much of things. So, these kind of tag names come along once we project it in the right way. So that is why these audits are also very important, because they have social benefits as well. Next, please. And finally, this is the kind of environmental audit certificate that you get. And once you have this kind of certificate where you've gone through a lot, you've gone through your waste, your water, your energy, your buildings, your noise, and of course, the others are different. The educational qualification and all are not conducted here, but these are the basic parts which once you've done them, you achieve a certificate for yourself. And this certificate means a lot because this one's added with the individual certificate of energy auditor, waste auditor, water auditor is going to give you a edge during your certification, and you comply. That shows that your compliance towards NAC is over as far as the green audit is concerned. Next, please. Okay, so this is how the implementation will happen. When I talked about blue-green infrastructure, so this is water, house, and transport. So these three things, when you look at them very carefully, are you using good transportation facilities for your organization? Are the teachers being given or a public transportation facility by the organization? Then what happens? You cut down on your carbon footprinting because individual cars are not coming in. Lot of clogging is not happening. The spaces are neat. You have more space for walking and doing things. Otherwise, in most of the organizations and universities, you find, there are thousands of motorcycles and cars all stacked together. Why? Because everybody is coming individually. There are two people coming from the same locality, but coming in their own cars. So it creates a lot of commotion. If we standardize it by saying, okay, the organization is going to send its own vehicle and people come in the morning and go back in the evening, then it becomes much cleaner, much easier, breathable place. Same goes for housing. How open areas are, how many open areas are there, how much of light is infiltrating, what is the thermal efficiency of your rooms, are you keeping them warm during the winters and they're cooler during the summers? So those things. And same thing goes on. So if these all things we are taking care of, then we have a green building, what we say, which is complying to the blue-green ratio, which is very important for sustainability. Next, please. This is one case study that I just took a shot, one screenshot of the PPT. You can log on to, onto internet and look for Terry University. You will know Terry University is one university which has a green building. And you can see a part of the building here. So there are open spaces here, a lot of open spaces, area where natural light keeps falling in so people can sit, they can read, they can work. So lighting is not required in most of the places. So you cut down on your energy budgets or energy bills. So this kind of building, similarly, they have a very good water recycling system. They have green spaces which are extremely good. So, all these things, when you combine together, you give an overall green university. You take an overall green university or green organization standard. Now, this is a newer university, okay? So I will not say that, but there are certain older buildings which are also universities or educational institutions. What we can do is we can retrofit things. See, we cannot demolish the whole thing and make a new thing. Sometimes, it happens when we are told that, we need to bring in newer things. Then we say, oh, it's such an old building. How can we change it? There are no changes. New buildings can have all these things. But retrofitting is always possible. So if you have an old building, but you need you need a groundwater water harvesting system, rainwater harvesting system, you can get it retrofitted. It may cost, but in long run, that groundwater harvested is going to pay you because you will never have water problems in your organization, no matter what happens in the city. So similarly, what are you doing with your wastewater? Are you recycling it and utilizing it in your fields? Then you don't need to use fresh water to water your plants. So, these are the kind of things that you can do and make yourself more sustainable. Next, please. Last time there was a query where people wanted to know who audits the external auditors. So this time I tried to find something. So one thing we must understand, external auditors have to be government certified. Two, They can be an ESG consultancy firm also, because they are all certified. They're business firms, but they do external auditing for you. So there are 3-4 examples I've given, like the Green Mentors is one, Consultivo, Conserve, Enviraj. I mean, these are not that I'm endorsing, but these are ones you can find. If you say online ESG consulting firm, you will find a lot of external auditors who do environmental auditing. So that is it. But the important is that all these auditors need to have proper certifications which are required. And that is what you need to have. So when you are getting it done from an external auditor, please ensure that the auditors have been doing environmental auditing for good firms and they have necessary certifications to do it. The energy audit, definitely the energy auditor has to have a BEE certification. Only when he has a BEE certification can he be an energy auditor. So these are two things that we really need to take care. Next. Okay, with this, I thank you for being so patient and hearing me out. In case you have any queries and questions, you can please put it up, or you are open for discussion. Otherwise, I would just leave you with these 2 words, which is that if you can't measure it, you can't work with it. So, you have to understand, and you have to be very, very cautious as far as your auditing is concerned, because it is the first and a very, very sensitive aspect of getting your certification.